a drastic and sudden change. Anyone who knows me knows that since the day my children were born, they've been my first priority always. When Viviana was little and were little, I kind of worked whatever job I could get, and I went full-time into school and work. So I would be with the kids at school or at work, and that was my life. By the time I was born in 2013, I kind of reached a point in my education where I could take what I learned and apply it to get a career, like a career type job, not just like a, intermediate, I need money now type job. And at that time I was hired at Northwestern Hospital, the downtown Chicago campus, 676 North St. Clair. And I worked there for approximately 6 years. And I worked there with, whether it was CLISMA at the time or Northwestern or Northwestern Medical Faculty Foundation, I worked there with I say 40 doctors, because the way that the practice was set up, there was the floor I worked, which was the 20th floor, and then the 23rd floor was a group of internists. And on the 20th floor, all of the specialists worked there. So you had dermatology, neurology, gastroenterology, and then you had rheumatology, endocrinology, and then you had gastroenterology, neurology, dermatology. The only specialty that didn't work on floor 20 was cardiology, which was on floor 23, and then all of those internists. And each specialty had approximately 2 to 4 doctors in that specialty. And we all were in one big office. And I was trained to cover for any of those doctors, administrative assistants or clinical assistants. So I was doing things like injections, triaging, vital signs, everything but drawing blood. So literally everything but drawing blood at Northwestern. I drew blood at other places, Alexian Brothers, outpatient clinic that I was working at for Gottlieb, and a couple of other clinics, but for the most part I was doing administrative function and executive calendar management, scheduling, insurance verification, charting, auditing charts, helping doctors merge from paper charts to electronic medical records and things of that nature. So again, the big kids, I was working in factories, I was going to school, I was working retail, I was working food service. Was born, I got the job at Northwestern about 4 years before she was born, maybe 5, and I kind of just worked and worked and worked and worked. And I was working more, than your standard 40-hour work week. And in doing so, I gained a lot of really valuable experience. But I also, was not able, I missed out on a lot of the time that I was able to spend with my children as babies. And my kids were little only once, as all children are, only little once. And so that is something that I look back on and really wish that I could have spent more time with them when they were little rather than working. But I also understand human need and necessity and the need to work and pay bills, etc. and so forth. When Weston was born, now understand my life was very normal, and by normal I mean work, kids, home. In 2015, after several years working at Northwestern Hospital, I was about 18 months old and I quit my job at Northwestern. I quit my job pretty abruptly. I would not say it was an impulsive decision. I was complaining about my job to my father for a really long time. I felt like I had put forth an extensive amount of effort that was not even really required to get the job done. I felt like in comparison to other medical staff and medical administrators and administrative assistants and even executives at the level that I was working, I was getting paid. I felt like I was getting cheated. I would stay sometimes 60 hours a week, 20 hours off the clock because Northwestern didn't authorize overtime. And I didn't feel like what I was getting paid 4 years in, 5 years in, 3 years in was enough compared to what I started at. So I really truly believed in myself and I felt like I could find something better for my family, less hours with the same amount of money, etc. and so forth. So I left Northwestern and I got a job in bottle service, and I got another job as a optical manager, office manager. So I was doing full-time optical office manager. I was prepping to compete in the NPC bodybuilding. So I was weightlifting. I was being a mom to all 3 of my children. I had my own apartment, me and my kids went to their father's houses on the weekends. And when I started working bottle service in 2015 as a second job, I never thought that it would low-key be the start of the end of my sense of normalcy. I thought that it would always be just something to get me by and extra money. And it just didn't turn out to be that way for me. For me, it was an entry to a lifestyle that I was not comfortable living and that I couldn't even relate with or navigate. It was just I opened up a portal to this world that I never even knew existed. And it was exciting, but also incredibly terrifying. And long story short, did not have the tools that I needed to protect myself from the, I don't want to call them monsters, but there are just people who, survive by taking advantage of others. And that's what brought me to where I am in GoPro Solo. So the reason why I feel like it's essential that I continue to share this part of my story is because if you're like you or me, I grew up in Elmhurst, so western suburbs. I moved to the city very, very early. I moved to Melrose Park, Franklin Park at 18 years old, 17 years old. And then I moved to the city at 23. So I'm 37 now, so I've been a Chicago girl my whole life, but in Elmhurst and in the western suburbs, I was never exposed to this type of person. I was never exposed to someone who will predatorily take advantage of you or me, or put drugs or alcohol in your, food or beverage without you knowing, or, come to your house and steal from you, or, rob you, or steal all your clothing, or, lie on official documents about you. I never even knew to protect myself from that because I never knew that it was a threat. And in working bottle service, I was definitely exposed to a lot of that. And also a lot of really nice people, who I really care about and formed really, really great relationships with, and who looked out for me and I looked out for them. So it was kind of a mix of both, but it threw my life off course in a way that I never expected. And it's also when and where I met my significant other of nearly 5 years, a little under, who ended up coercing and kind of exploiting my love for him in many, many ways, which I'll discuss in detail in my novel. But for the purpose of this live, it's not really prudent. Just know that for love, I would have hurtled my body off of a building because I thought that I had met this man, a trust fund person, who was going to buy my children and I a beautiful home, and all of the hard work I had been doing and going to school full time and working full time and being a mom, part time, because let's just be honest, if you're a full-time working mother, you're a part-time, if you're a full-time employee, you're a part-time mother. You're spending more time with the coworkers that you see on a daily basis than you are with your children. And that devastated me. I wanted nothing more than to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. And that was a promise that he, made to me. So I did everything I could to continue that relationship, and it turned out to be incredibly exploitative and abusive for me. When I tried to end that relationship, I was unlawfully thrown into the streets. My apartment that I had and maintained with my children and I for the entire time I was in that relationship was given to this person who, was not a good person, and was not, doing the things that good people do. And I was told, you have to leave. And not only you have to leave, but you can't take your car, and you can come back for it later, and we're not going to leave with any money. We're not going to give you money to leave. Just get out. And it was awful. Like, I didn't have anywhere to go. And I experienced homelessness for the first time in my entire life. And I experienced being sexually assaulted, and I experienced being robbed, and I experienced, a lot of really, really adverse effects. My children, who at the time were 14, 13, and 6, about to be 7, had to go live with their fathers, and they had always lived with me full time and only been with their fathers on weekends. My heart was completely broken and destroyed. Amidst all of this adversity, I was filing police reports regularly and asking people for help, going directly to the state's attorney, asking them for help. And it was amidst this time that I also started realizing, like, is the world taken over? Is the government taken over? Do we even have court anymore? And COVID was a thing, so everything was like court on Zoom only. And I was just freaking out. I would apply to jobs, a million jobs like per month, and just to do anything. I would launch these entrepreneurial endeavors that were like various sales endeavors, or like service-based endeavors like personal training, cleaning homes. Amazon was like really growing in size, and I thought to Amazon, I thought I could take advantage of the Amazon influencer platform, because I had grown in working in the night industry. I had grown a tremendous following. Something like 50 or 60,000 people just on Instagram alone, and Facebook was something very similar. I had far surpassed the 5,000 friend limit that we were allotted. And I had numerous fan pages, and I was doing, appearance-based entertainment work, and I just have tried it all. I've done so many things entrepreneurially speaking, like sales and appearances and service-based organization, Amazon influencer, taking care of other people, cleaning, organizing, gardening, like you name it, literally you name it, and I've done it. And it was then that I realized that like something weird was going on, and I still feel that way, that something incredibly weird is going on with the world. I've never been in a space where I couldn't get a job, like as a bartender at the very least. I have excellent articulation skills, I know how to mix a beverage, I have food service industry experience. Whatever it is, I was willing to do it, like any job.